be to me to issue a public statement about these matters after I had carefully tried to avoid discussing them. Okay, so he goes on in that vein. My disinclination to enter into religious controversy has, however, never been the result of fear of folly. My study of the foundation of my religious faith does not date from yesterday. Very early in life, I had already become aware of the need to examine my views and actions. And the principal reason for which I have spent my leisure time since then in the study of philosophy and the humanities was precisely that I wanted to prepare myself for this task. And he goes on in that vein. So finally, he goes on and said, if my decision after all these years of study had not been entirely in favor of my religion, I would certainly have found it necessary to make my convictions known publicly. If I were indifferent to both religions, or mocked or scorned all revelation, I might indeed follow the counsel with which expediency dictates, while conscience remains silent. I would not be afraid. Anyway, finally he says, I do not deny that I see certain human excesses and abuses that tarnish the beauty of my religion, my inherited one. There are excesses there that he considers and abuses. But is there any friend of truth who can claim that his religion is completely free of man-made accretions and corruptions? All of us know that the search for truth can be impeded by the poisonous breath of hypocrisy and superstition. Yeah, I wish all people today did know that. Nevertheless, of the validity of the essentials of my faith, I am as firmly and irrefutably convinced as you or Monsieur Bonnet are of yours. And I declare before God, who created and sustained both you and I, that the God in whose name you have challenged me, that I shall adhere to the principles as long as my soul remains unchanged. My inner remoteness from your religion has remained unchanged since I disclosed my views to you and your friends in earlier conversations, and I would even now be prepared to concede that my respect for the moral stature of your founder has not diminished since then, etc., etc., etc. Still, I admit that I would never have entered into a dispute about Judaism, even if it had been polemically attacked or triumphantly held up to scorn in academic textbooks. There would have been no counter-argument from me, even against the most ridiculous notion which anyone, whether trained or merely semi-literate in the field of rabbinics, might have discovered in some literary trash that no serious-minded Jew bothers to read. I want to refute the world's derogatory opinion of the Jew by righteous living, not by pamphleteer. So anyway, his approach is righteous living. You see, I don't want to read this whole thing. Well, I'll give you just a couple more paragraphs, okay? Just so you get the taste of it. However, it's not only my station of life, but also my religion and my philosophy that furnished me with the most cogent reasons why I wanted to avoid these controversies. According to the principles of my religion, I am not expected to try to convert anyone not born into my faith. Even though many people think that the zeal of proselytizing originated in Judaism, it is in fact completely alien. Our rabbis hold unanimously that the written as well as the oral laws that constitute our revealed religion are binding only for our own people. Now he's getting into the nitty-gritty, which he'll get into in Jerusalem further. That the oral laws and the written ones that make up rabbinic Judaism are binding only, I'll go into that next time more, only on our own people. Moses gave us the law, it is inheritance of the house of Jacob, quotes Deuteronomy. All other nations were enjoined by God to observe the law of nature and the religion of the patriarchs. All who live in accordance with the religion of nature, you see there's natural religion he's bringing, and of reason are called the righteous among the nations. They too are entitled to eternal bliss, far from being obsessed by any desire to proselytize. Our rabbis require us to discourage, as forcefully as we can, anyone who asks to be converted. People come to me in other classes I've had them say, you know, I wanted to convert to Judaism. I went to the rabbi and he discouraged me. I said, yeah, because he wanted you to come back several times and you didn't understand that he's obliged to discourage you. That's part of his training. If you had gone back 3 or 4 times, he would have accepted you, but you accepted his discouragement and went away, discouraged, because that's what he's supposed to do. He's not supposed to convert someone unless they really want to be converted. And they're like, what? You mean if I'd gone back, he would? I said, yeah, if he'd gone back 2 or 3 times, he probably would have changed his mind. But you just went away. You listened to him. He didn't want either way. He didn't want you to listen to him. In effect, he did, but he didn't. Let's see. This is true. I'm going to comment on this in a minute. We are to ask him to consider the heavy burden he would have to the convert shoulder needlessly by taking this step. We are to point out, and this is true, that in his present state he's obligated to fulfill only the Noachic laws, the laws incumbent upon Noah, in order to serve to be saved. But that upon his conversion he will have to observe strictly all the laws. Paul goes into this in his letters. Paul says, don't circumcise yourself, don't do this, don't do that, because then you'll have to take the Mosaic law upon yourself, and that's too harsh, don't do it, and so on and so forth. Jesus Christ is sufficient for you, and this is, summarized, this is in Galatians. I'm being kind to Paul here. Paul says much more than that, but in any case, this is what Mendelssohn is saying 1,700 years later. My God, we haven't moved very far, have we? In order to be saved, that upon the conversion you'll have to observe strictly all the laws. Hey, I don't even know what the laws are, and I don't tend to observe anything that is annoying to me. So I don't know what Mendelssohn is talking about, but no one questions what I am. So frankly, Mendelssohn is much more conservative than any of us in this room here. Maybe some of you, but any of the people that I'm familiar with, or any of the people you're likely to meet. So you see, this is only 200 or 300 years ago. Things have changed a lot since then. So finally, we're to paint a picture of the misery and destitution of our people and of the contempt in which they are held in order to keep him from a hasty decision that he may later regret. This is very, very vivid, and that's why I read it to you. We're not to send missionaries to the Indies or Greenland. As long as we do not want to convince or convert others, we have no quarrel with them. What's your problem with us? If a Confucian or a Solon were living among our contemporaries, I could, according to my religion, love and admire the great man without succumbing to the ridiculous desire to convert him. Convert Confucius or Solon? Why? Why would I want to do that? He's not a member of the household of Jacob. Our religious laws do not apply to him. As far as the general principles of religion are concerned, we should have little trouble agreeing on them. Do I think he can be saved? It seems to me anyone who leads men in virtue in this life cannot be damned in the next. Fortunately, I need not fear that I shall have to defend my views before an academic board of inquiry, etc., 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 etc. Then he finishes over here. These are the reasons rooted in my religion and philosophical convictions for which I certainly avoid religious controversy. If you add to them the circumstances of my life among my fellow man, I am sure you will find my position justified. I am a member of an oppressed people, which must appeal to the benevolence of the government for protection and shelter as Schutzjude, which are not always granted and never without limitations. Content to be tolerated and protected, my fellow Jews willingly forego liberties granted to every other human being, barred even from temporary residence in many countries. They consider it, this is very accurate and very informative that he says it, not me. At the time, barred even from temporary residence in many countries.